tension between the 2014 World Cup hosts and FIFA has escalated. Jerome Valcke, the General Secretary of football's world governing body, has urged the Brazilian government to approve a law which allows the sale of beer at World Cup venues. Alcohol has been prohibited at Brazilian stadiums since 2003. Speaking to journalists in Rio de Janeiro, Valcke said the following: "Alcoholic drinks are part of the FIFA World Cup, so we're going to have them. Excuse me if I sound a bit arrogant, but that's something we won't negotiate. The fact that we have the right to sell beer has to be a part of the law." Well, earlier today, FIFA issued the following statement: "The subject of alcohol is just one of the discussions taking place regarding the general laws of Brazil. These include other matters that are much more relevant, like transportation and ticketing. These are the issues that are crucial to the organization of the 2014 World Cup." Now, let me give you some background on the issues that have created tension between FIFA and the Brazilian government in the countdown to the 2014 tournament. The disagreement over the sale of alcohol at stadiums is just one of the latest concerns. Of course, football's governing body is expected to force the issue, considering one of its longest-standing sponsors is Budweiser. But let's have a look at the other ones. Both sides have also been at loggerheads over the Brazilian law which gives senior citizens and students the right to get discounts on ticket purchases. FIFA didn't want to allow that at first, but have since softened their stance. Copyright protection has also been a contentious subject. FIFA want the Brazilian government to introduce tougher penalties and even jail sentences for anyone caught counterfeiting official FIFA or World Cup merchandise. Now, CNN's Shasta Darlington has been following the story in São Paulo, and she joins us live now. Shasta, great to have you on World Sport. The comments by Jerome Valcke in Rio de Janeiro on Wednesday got the attention of the international media, but what's been the reaction there in Brazil?
Well, you know, it's an interesting point, Pedro, because they've more or less been ignored. In fact, the Brazilian media has focused much more on other things like what he thinks of the progress Brazil is making in stadiums. Are they on track? On the other hand, they did take offense at something else he said, and that's when at one point he said, you know, all Brazil does is ask, ask, ask. Well, it's that kind of language that definitely gets people up in arms, where they accuse FIFA of trying to rewrite Brazilian laws, of trying to muscle their way in. And what they came back with is the things that we're demanding are fair and just. The things that you mentioned, cut price tickets for senior citizens, and they've actually added to that. They want cut price tickets for indigenous groups that live in the region where the games will be held, and also for the workers who are building the stadiums. So that's what the media has really focused on here, which is kind of interesting considering the huge brouhaha this has caused around the world, Pedro.
Now, Shasta, it seems to be that there's a clash, and maybe I would say a power struggle, when it comes to FIFA regulations versus Brazilian laws. It depends on what side you stand on, but I believe the Brazilian sports minister, Aldo Rebelo, believes that whatever the issues are now, they'll be resolved, right?
Well, that's right, Pedro. I mean, he views that when Brazil basically made this bid to host the World Cup, they knew what the rules were, and they signed on. And when I spoke to him about a month ago, I interviewed him, he said, we knew what we were getting into, and we will meet our obligations. Just recently, during this meeting yesterday, he reiterated that, and he said, you know, we wanted this law passed by the end of the year. It hasn't happened, but he said he expects it will happen by March, and that's where we stand now, Pedro.
Just very quickly and finally, Shasta, as far as the preparations are going and infrastructure, is it your opinion from what you see out there in São Paulo and traveling around the country that there is an issue with the stadiums being ready on time or not?
Honestly, Pedro, the stadiums aren't as much of an issue as the infrastructure. According to the sports minister, the stadiums are more or less on schedule. But you go to an airport here, you can barely move around the Sao Paulo airport. It's elbow to elbow. To get in from the airport to the center of the city can take 2 or 3 hours if it's raining. And you've got to ask, how are they going to move people from one game to another, which are in cities across the country? And that would definitely have me worried, Pedro.
All right, we'll see how they deal with that. Shasta, great to get your insight here on World Sport. Now, it's no secret FIFA have been worried about Brazil's preparations for the 2014 tournament for some time. Late last year, Sepp Blatter told me he has been worried with the government's ability to pass certain laws, and he also conceded there could be a personal problem between the president of the country, Dilma Rousseff, and the head of the organizing committee, Ricardo Teixeira.
There is a more serious problem also. It's a problem of the legacy of Mr. Lula to the new president, Mr. Dilma Rousseff, and the governmental guarantees that have to pass by decree to the Congress or the Parliament. And this has not yet been done in the full approach. And then there's another problem. It's a personal problem, obviously, between the president of the country and the president of football. And this is also a problem that must be solved.
How do you read the situation as far as Jerome Valcke going over there and trying to urge the Brazilian government to pass laws and change their rules and basically do it their way or take the highway?
Well, I certainly find it interesting that the Brazilian president, Dilma Rousseff, has been quite pointed in saying that they won't cater to everything FIFA wants, whether it's doing something like allowing alcohol to be sold in stadiums. I've been to the Maracanã in Brazil as a fan and bought fake beer, non-alcoholic beer, and we'll see if FIFA is able to get that pushed through for the World Cup. Budweiser's obviously an official sponsor for FIFA, and if they're able to get alcohol into a place like Qatar for the 2022 World Cup, I think they might be able to make it work in Brazil.